When you picture the Elves of Middle-earth, you probably think of the calm, ethereal halls of Rivendell, or maybe the golden, timeless woods of Lothlorien. You see this noble, ancient people, totally united in their wisdom. But, that image, it's really just the final, quiet chapter of a much, much longer and more tragic story. A story that's absolutely filled with rebellion, betrayal, and a kind of sorrow that stretches across thousands of years. And it all leads to the big question that kind of hangs over the end of The Lord of the Rings, right? Why would a people so powerful, so beautiful, just leave? Why would they abandon the very world they fought for so long to protect? Well, the answer isn't simple. And to find it, we have to go all the way back to the very dawn of time. Okay, let's really get into this. To understand why they left, you have to understand their relationship with light. Their entire history, their very essence, is a journey defined by it. It all begins with the brilliant, pure starlight of their birth and ends with the fading sunset of their age. It's really a story about a great light diminishing over time and a purpose being quietly fulfilled. So, let's go back. I mean, way, way back. Thousands of years before the War of the Ring, to a time when the world was young and dark and silent. This is where the story of the firstborn truly begins. You see, before there was a sun, before there was a moon, there were only the stars, and the very first thing the elves ever saw when they woke up by the shores of a lake called Quivionen was the pure, untainted light of the cosmos. That starlight became their first love. It was woven into the very fabric of their being, and it would define them forever. And right from the get-go, they were not one single people. The first to awaken were these three patriarchs, Imin, Tata, and Enel, and from them, the three great clans would descend. This is so important, because the story of the elves is a story of choices and divided paths, right from their very first breath. And almost immediately, a shadow fell on them. The first great enemy, Melkor, started capturing elves who wandered too far from the group. And in some of Tolkien's earliest writings, it's from these captured, tormented elves that the first orcs were bred. A horrific, twisted mockery of what they once were. Their long, long war with darkness began right at their dawn. So after the divine powers, the Valar, dealt with Melkor, they made this fateful decision. They invited the elves to leave Middle-earth and come live with them in Valinor, the Undying Lands, a realm of eternal light. And this summons, this single invitation, would shatter the elven people forever. This sparked the great debate. I mean, what would you do? Should they abandon the only home they'd ever known, that pure starlight they first woke up to, for a divine, unknown light they had never even seen? It was a choice between the familiar and the sublime, and it was a choice that not all of them would make. And this choice created the first great sundering. Those who went were called the Calaquendi, the Elves of Light, because they would actually get to see the light of the two trees of Valinor. But those who stayed behind were the Morkiendi, the Elves of Darkness. Now, that doesn't mean they were evil, not at all. It just means they never saw that divine light, because they chose to live under the stars they knew and loved. The journey itself created even more divisions. It's like three different roads just diverging into a mist. You had the Vanyar, who were drawn purely by that divine light and hurried west towards the sea. Then came the Noldor, who were driven by this incredible thirst to learn the secrets of that light and capture its beauty in their craft. And finally, there were the Teleri, the largest group, who lingered. Their love for the starlight and the wild lands of Middle-earth made their paths splinter again and again, deep into the forests. So this table kind of connects all that ancient history to the elves we actually know and see in the movies. The wood elves of Lorien and Mirkwood, the ones ruled by Galadriel and Thranduil. Well, they are the descendants of the Nandor, the ones who chose the familiar starlight of Middle-earth over the long journey west. This whole complex family tree is the reason the elven realms in the Third Age feel so different and distinct from each other. Of all these different clans, none were more brilliant or more tragic than the Noldor. They're the ones who reached the light of Valinor, who learned from the gods themselves, and then brought fire and war right back to Middle-earth. And at the very heart of their story is one incredible elf, Fëanor. The Noldor had this fire inside them, a real passion for knowledge, and more than anything, for creation. And in Valinor, their skills became just unparalleled. They learned to cut gems, to forge metals, to create things of just immense beauty and power. They were, without a doubt, the greatest artisans the world has ever known. And the greatest of them all was Feanor. His genius was just absolute. He created the Tengwar script, the very first Elvish alphabet. He crafted the Palantir, those seeing stones. And for his masterwork, he captured the living light of the two trees of Valinor and sealed it inside 3 perfect jewels, the Silmarils. For Feanor, you see, the light was no longer just something to behold, it was something to possess. But when Melkor destroyed the trees and stole the Silmarils, Feanor's incredible genius just curdled into madness. He and his 7 sons swore this terrible, unbreakable oath to reclaim the jewels no matter the cost. And that oath would bind them to darkness and despair for ages to come. And their oath led to tragedy almost immediately. To chase after Melkor, Feanor needed ships. When their own kin, the Teleri elves, refused to give them up, the Noldor attacked them. It was the kinslaying, the very first time elf had ever slain elf. The creative fire in their eyes had become a consuming flame, and with that act, they were cursed, doomed to bring nothing but sorrow back with them to Middle-earth. And that curse, that sorrow, it echoes all the way down to the Third Age. After millennia of war and loss, the fire of the Noldor had dwindled down to just embers. The elves who were still in Middle-earth were weary. Their great kingdoms were gone, and now they lived in these hidden refuges, just trying to hold back the final twilight. And their secret weapon for holding back that twilight? It lay here, with the 3 elven rings of power. Now, unlike Sauron's rings, these were made for preservation and for healing. The power of Nenya is what sustained the timeless beauty of Lothlorien, and Vilya maintained the peace of Rivendell. They were the last bastion of elven magic in a world that was steadily growing darker. So here's the crucial point, the great irony of it all. The destruction of the One Ring was a victory for Middle-earth, for sure, but it was the death knell for the elves. The power of their 3 rings was secretly bound to the one, and when it was unmade, their power just faded away. The magic that held back time finally gave way. And so they had to leave. Their spirits were just exhausted from ages of struggle. Their whole purpose as the firstborn was to guide and protect the world until the younger children, that's us, mankind, were ready to inherit it. And with Sauron finally gone, that time had come. So why did the elves leave Middle-earth? Well, it wasn't in defeat, it was in completion. Their long, incredible journey, which started under the very first stars, had finally reached its long sunset. Their light was never meant to rule the world, only to hold back the darkness long enough for a new dawn, the dawn of men, to finally arrive. Their story doesn't end with a bang, but with the quiet, beautiful image of a white ship sailing west into a silver mist,